background, not only are we live, but we are live and once again back home, back here in Windsor, Ontario, after what was an absolutely wonderful adventure, wonderful trip. Flew entirely around the world. Went from basically Chicago to, well, if you want to start at the top, Essex, Ontario to Chicago, Illinois to stopover in South Korea to Manila in the Philippines to Qatar, sorry, to Dubai in UAE to Brazil. Had a stopover, I guess, in Dallas, and then back here in Windsor, which was an incredible trip. I wanted to talk a little bit about that trip today. Um, some things I learned, some things I discovered. I've written in the past articles on Medium about travel and how I travel and why I travel and why I think it's so important to travel Masonically. But I wanted to talk a little bit about some things I learned during my travels. This time that was a little bit different because there's the lengths I traveled that maybe will come in for some other people. Rondo Ellsworth, other Masons, I should say. Welcome, Rondo. Thank you for being here. And Dad, thank you for being here as well. I hope that you are doing well. I hope everybody is having a great day. Thank you so much for joining. But as always, I'm going to talk about that topic in the second hour. The first hour, let's just hang out. Let's see who joins and let's see what it is that you guys want to chat about. Any questions, any thoughts, any comments on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral? But yeah, Rondo, where in the world was I indeed? I was in a few different spots, so which was very fun. Don't get me wrong, I loved it. It was a blast. But yeah, I was in a few different locations, but everybody was super friendly. I have to give a huge shout out to everybody I met along the trip, my brothers, and well as all the people who just I met, brothers or otherwise. Um, all the people who helped me on my travels, the airline staff, the airline crew. I had some great experiences with some airline people, and so I wanted to make sure to shout them out and talk about that. I'm doing well, Ron. How are you doing? I'm back here, back home, so that's really nice. I'm gonna do this poll question just 1 second. Am I rested after my trip? Not quite yet, because I got back home actually relatively late, because I flew into Toronto and then welcome, Jen. So I'm not quite. All right, here we go. Um, got the poll question. So, Jen, thank you for being here, by the way. Jen, I hope you're doing well. I hope you'll hit the like button and, subscribe, all that good stuff I always remind people to do. Where did I go on my trip? So, my trip, I guess, it was kind of a multi-city, multi-destination trip, and it was all incredible. I started in Essex, Ontario, which is just, about a 30-minute drive from where I live, but it's just a small town outside of Windsor where we had an Essex County fish fry. Then I traveled to Chicago, Illinois, which is about a 5-hour drive for Morton Grove Lodge's 99th installation of officers. I got a lot of really cool stuff, which I posted that on social media. Some of the really cool things I was able to receive from that visit, like a really cool coin, as well as obviously meeting all my friends and brothers in Morton Grove in Glenview, Illinois. From there, I traveled, took a flight to the Philippines, Manila, capital city, where I got to see Freemasons take part in a celebration of Jose Rizal, who was a very important, or Rizal, I should say, excuse me, who a very important Masonic figure as well as a very important Filipino figure, which was really cool. And from there, I traveled to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, for the 90th anniversary of the formation of the District Grand Lodge of South America Northern Division, which was pretty incredible as well. So I got to take part in a lot of travels. And then back here. And I mean, along the way, there were stopovers. Like I had a 6 hour stopover in Seoul, South Korea. Um, I had a very fun all night stopover in Dubai at United Arab Emirates. So that was really fun as well. So I was really lucky I got to travel as far as I did. But by the way, please take a moment, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let me know how you're doing. So my dad crossed an ocean, crossed the whole ocean, which is really, really cool. I got to visit Hall Whistle as well, Hall Whistle Lodge. Obviously, after my pops had already, or my grandfather had passed away, but I still got to sit in his lodge, which was very nice and something I really enjoyed. And it was a really, really special trip. Hall Whistle Lodge is an excellent, excellent lodge and well worth the travels. But thank you, by the way, so much, everybody who's joining. Please take a moment and hit that like and subscribe button. I'm going to share this in a few spots. We'll see if we can get some more people joining us. Who knows? But like I said, the first hour, just hang out, wait to see who joins. The second hour, talk about some of the things I learned on this trip. You'll see more of it when I post my thoughts on Medium, my written content, and all that good jazz. Oops, I gotta update my device at some point. But I hope everybody is doing well. Let me know what your answer to the poll question is. Let me know how you're doing. And let me know if there's anything that you want to talk about when it comes to Freemasonry. Any thoughts you have? Talk about Masonic travel, the importance of it. I'll be sending you an email tomorrow, Dad, I think tomorrow, with my flight information for my next trip back home to Winnipeg. But for now, we'll just give it a bit of time. We'll see who joins. And I'm going to do another one of these at midnight as well. Or, sorry, 1 a.m. So if you want to join me tonight, 1 a.m. Eastern. I'm going to give it a bit of time. I'm going to see who else joins. And thank you to everybody who, and again, when I talk about these trips, Jen, a great way to follow me, great way to learn about my trips is to follow me on social media. On my personal accounts, my, Square and Compass accounts, all that stuff helps out big time. And it's really important and really great way to kind of learn more about, kind of why I travel, the importance of traveling, the value of traveling, all that good jazz. Tips for other Masons looking to travel, why I think it's important, what travel means in a Masonic context, because it's not the same thing. We got 3 votes on our poll question. Let's see. What are we saying? What is the first you ever traveled for Masonic Winter Function within my community city, within my state province? 3 votes. 1 within my community city, 1 within my state province, 1 cross an ocean over 5-hour flight. I guess for instead of saying within my hemisphere, I could have said within my country, but that's all right. I'm not going to change it now. So, as always, we'll give it a bit of time. We'll see who joins. And if there's anything that you want to talk about when it comes to Freemasonry, let me know. The second half will be talking about Masonic travel, why I think it's so important. And also, I've talked about this in the past, but things I've learned from my time traveling this time, because it was a much longer trip. I travel a lot. I'm very lucky to travel. Um, but normally when I travel, it's primarily within North America. This was the first time in probably 20 years, maybe 15 years, where my travel has actually been outside of North America and through to, this was, the Philippines over basically across an ocean, as well as to South America. Um, and why I think that's so important. And some things I learned about this travel. No worries, Rondo. You can always answer it like you can always kind of try to what's the word I'm looking for? Modify the question in such a way that you can answer it or answer it from your experience. But I do appreciate you being here. By the way, let me know how you're doing. I hope you're having a good day, getting ready for what I'm sure will be a great weekend. Um, but yeah, let me know how you're doing. Let me know if you follow me on social media so you can kind of see some of what I've been up to. One thing I have to, speaking of following me on social media, one thing I really have to work on is updating my Patreon, which I will be updating very, very soon. So, because there's more stuff I need to add, I need to add more of my content to it. So that's coming soon. But right now I'm just sharing this with a few more people. I will be going on tonight as well at 1 a.m., seeing if those streams once again. Yeah, because it seemed like for a while a lot of people were enjoying the 1 a.m. streams. Apparently, my audience is like me, night owls. So I was unfortunate that I wasn't able to do my streams as much as I'd like. Normally, I do these streams as regularly as I can, 1 a.m. and 1 p.m. Monday through Friday. But you know what? That's okay. I still got the chance to. I think it was worth it. Put it that way. It was worth it for the opportunity to travel. So can't complain too much. Yeah, no, I was lucky enough. Like I was saying, I got to travel to, all of these um, pretty amazing, all of these really amazing locations, meet some really cool brothers. Everybody was super friendly. So it was wonderful. And that's the one thing I keep in mind, with especially if you're watching the news, you're seeing how, I guess, challenging things can appear right now in the world. We'll say challenging. Um, Getting the chance to travel, most people are ultimately trying to just live their lives. They're not paying attention to what's going on. They're just trying to get through their day to day, whatever that day to day may look like. And yeah, it reminds you not everybody's hyper online and thinking about the Middle East or whatever it is. Most people are just thinking about how they're going to pay the bills in the Masonic context, how they're going to make it to lodge, all that stuff, right? When you don't travel, it's easy to get sucked into some of these online this online world and assume everything revolves around kind of the worst news of the day, which it does not. But I do, like I said, I'm going to write about my travels on Medium. I hope you guys will follow me on there if you've not done so yet, as well as all my other different sites. And as always, let's just give it a bit of time. Let's see who joins us and wants to chat about Freemasonry. And definitely what I will do as well is at some point do one of these streams on my computer, laptop, and share the screen and share the pictures of my travels. Although again, you can already find a lot of those if you go through, if you go follow me on social media. So please do so. And if you like fireworks, I hope you'll join me on Monday, this coming Monday, for our fireworks here in Windsor. I think it's more important than ever that what we do is make sure, with Canada-US relations at an interesting place right now, for various reasons. I think events like the joint Windsor Detroit fireworks are still really important to remind us that whatever the political situation is at a moment, at the moment, it doesn't change and shouldn't change the fact that, Canada and America are brothers. I've always said Canada is the greatest country in the world because we have the greatest neighbors in the world. We have many Masonic brothers cross border who travel cross border, and events like the fireworks are a celebration of that friendship and the fact that that friendship will endure long past any current political climates. So let's give it a bit of time though. Let's see, as always, who joins and anything you guys want to talk about when it comes to Freemasonry. Any thoughts you have? By the way, happy Juneteenth. Might be worth talking a little bit again about the history of um, um, Freemasonry and Prince Hall, Freemasonry and African Americans. Freemasonry has a very um, Freemasonry, one of the things I love about it is despite Freemasons being humans and therefore Freemasons having their own history and own issues with things like racism and prejudice, which is going to exist in any organization which, involves human beings, it still was a major force, in my opinion, for equality, and that includes equality amongst African American and Black men and, society and communities at large. It's also okay to tell your brothers when they're messing up. It is, whether they agree with you or not that they're messing up is a whole other can of tuna. But um, it absolutely is okay to let your brothers know when they are messing up. It's one of those things where it's tough. It's tough to find that balance, right? Because what if they don't think they're messing up? What if they disagree? Um, but there's this expression in Freemasonry, right? What's the expression? I can't think of it now, and now it's driving me crazy. Judge with candor, admonish with friendship, reprehend with mercy. I think that's a pretty decent approach to take when it comes to that. You want to be honest with your judgments, but you also want to um, when you are admonishing somebody, admonish or admonishing a brother, admonish them with friendship, and if you are um, reprehending them, do so with mercy and kindness. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe it's just that's who knows. I don't know why that date in specific. I mean, it's meant to celebrate kind of July 1st and July 4th combined, but maybe that's just the best date they could do it. It's always sometime in late June. Just depends on who knows, maybe the fireworks schedule. But I'm going to be live streaming those fireworks, and I can't wait to do that. It's going to be awesome. It's one of my favorite things to do because I'm lucky enough that I have a beautiful, beautiful view of the fireworks. So, which is something I'm incredibly lucky to have. And so now you can all share in my view. That is Monday, June 23rd. That's going to be a blast. I can't wait. But we're going to give it a bit more time. We're going to see who joins. As always, this first hour is just hanging out, waiting to see who joins. The second hour is when we actually start with the main topics. And I'm going to try a 1 a.m. stream again tonight as well, just to see how that goes. And also start posting some more stuff on my channels once again. So it's going to be coming soon, so always pay attention to those. Just waiting to see who joins us, and anything you guys want to talk when it comes to Freemasonry, any thoughts, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear it. And thank you to everybody who's joined so far. And taking part in voted in the poll question. I truly appreciate that as well. I just want to say, I'm going to talk more about this later, but I traveled to, again, I traveled to Chicago, then I traveled to the Philippines, Manila, then I traveled to Rio de Janeiro, and I had been told a bunch of times that it's dangerous, that those are dangerous locations. Chicago's dangerous. The Philippines are dangerous. Rio's dangerous. I've been told Detroit is dangerous. I've been to San Francisco. I was told that's dangerous. Los Angeles. Like in any of these places I've traveled to, I've never felt in danger. I've never felt afraid. Now I'm not an idiot. I talked about this before, right? I'm not running around waving, $100 bills in the air and shouting, I sure hope somebody robs me, or just being stupid, right? Like I try to pay attention to my surroundings. I get insurance when I travel in case I have any medical issues. I try to do a little bit of research in where I'm going in terms of things like the best services to use for taxis or rides, or the transit system. I check reviews of where I'm going, so I try my best to be intelligent about where I'm traveling and where I'm going. But at the same time, I've never felt in any of these locations that are supposedly these crime infested hellholes based on what you see on social media. I've never felt unsafe. I've never felt scared. I've never felt concerned for my well-being. I've never seen anything that's caused me to feel concerned for my well-being. So, I don't know. I just want to say is, I'm not, and by the way, I understand, like, I don't live there. And because I don't live there, it might be different if I was living there. But as a visitor, as somebody who travels to some of these locations frequently, I travel to Chicago very, very frequently, and I've been, at different places all hours of the night. Never felt unsafe. The people have always been friendly. Again, I try to make intelligent decisions. I try to pay attention to things. I always keep backups of any important documents. So when I'm traveling, I have my passport, but I also keep an electronic backup of it. So if, heaven forbid, it gets stolen or lost, at least I know I've got that, which can help expedite the process to get a new one. I try to memorize important phone numbers, backup phone numbers, but at the same time, like I said, I feel safe, and I think constantly living in fear of traveling, fear of other people, fear of whatever it is, I don't think that's helpful for society or an individual or a Mason. We're as Masons, one of the things we're called to be, I think, is optimistic. If not optimistic about the world, at least optimistic about ourselves and our place in the world, and believing that we are going to be okay. I think it's something that Freemasons are called upon to do. And that includes when you're traveling. As long as you mind your business, you should be good. That's a good rule. That's a good rule, Rondo, and I agree with that. Right? Just mind your business. Don't be stupid, and you're gonna be okay. The set that you run with is pretty heavy. Also, there's that. When you say the set I run with, do you mean the Masons? Um, because and in fairness, there have been times where I've been lucky enough to be somewhere I'm not quite sure where I am. I get lost. If I'm traveling to a new town, I don't know where I am. I get lost. But I've come across a Masonic temple and Masonic building, and they've pointed me in the right direction. Usually, give me something to eat, which is quite nice. Um, and so yeah, so there's definitely help to know that I've got brothers in all these places that can provide me with some assistance if I need it. As my dad says, and as Rondo says, both correct. If it bleeds, it leads, which is true, unfortunately. It probably would be more helpful if it was not the case, but what can you do? Um, but yeah, I've felt very lucky in my travels. And at the end of the day, too, you can't just not travel out of fear of what could happen to you, right? Because then you're kind of letting the, I don't like to use this term, but whatever, quote unquote, letting the bad guys win. I mean, maybe. I'm not sure, how heavy or influential they are in. I mean, I certainly they provide, and as a Mason, certainly it's nice to know that almost anywhere I go in the world, if I find myself in some trouble, I can try to track down a Masonic lodge or Masonic building and know that I've got brothers there, and know that hopefully they can provide me with some assistance. So it's almost like a type of travel insurance in and of itself, um, which is really, really nice. So I will say that it's wonderful to know that. Welcome. If you're just joining us, thank you so much for being here. Please take a moment, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let me know how you're doing. And if you want to chat about Freemasonry, any thoughts you have about Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, I would love to hear it. We're just going to give it a little bit more time. Like I said, the first hour is just hanging out, seeing who jumps in the chat, who says hello, and what they want to talk about. The second hour is where we talk about specific topics. And this time it's going to be the things I learned during this particularly fun round of travel around the world, travel to, again, Manila in the Philippines, Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and things I learned that I think can maybe to a certain extent assist anybody, but certainly I think can assist Masons in their attempts to travel. In them being heavy, that gives the individual member a greater buffer from the harder parts. And that, I mean, I think you're right, Rondo, and that is something that I've talked about in the past. You know, I've described Freemasonry as, in some ways, society's social safety net, which I believe that is the case, by the way. It is a societal safety net, and when the harder parts of life do hit, whatever those harder parts might be, it could be being the victim of some type of crime, it could be a job loss, it could be economic issues, it could be medical issues. Having the Masons there as something on which you can rely for assistance, whether it be financial assistance, emotional support, just a place to go to take your mind off of it, all of that stuff is really, really critical and really, really important. And it can help people, stop them from kind of falling down the hill or backsliding into really dangerous and really bad situations. So, in my also humble opinion. By the way, this coffee tastes so good right now. I will say, one thing I love about Brazil as someone who loves coffee is Brazilian coffee was pretty great. And the Oddfellows, Rondo, were directly influenced by Freemasons. So, but yeah, no, mutual aid and benefit. Like when we talk about the social safety net, a lot of people view it as kind of a singular thing. They view it as one net. Usually it's a net created by government programs. But rather, the social safety net it's a patchwork of a lot of different nets all quilted together, right? Or different organizations creating different nets that they then kind of get quilted together, right? Sometimes religious institutions and organizations create those nets. So, for example, if your church, mosque, synagogue, whatever it is, they may have, what's the word I'm looking for? Soup kitchens or food pantries. They may give away clothing. They may have community dinners to give people something warm to eat. Then you have government programs, obviously. Then you have charities, not-for-profit organizations. Then you have neighbor groups and neighborhood organizations and block parties where it's like people checking in on their neighbors, bringing them food if they're having a tough time. And then you've got Masons who kind of can provide financial support, mutual financial benefit. They can provide emotional support. They can provide psychological support. They can, sometimes it's a place to go to get something to eat if your brother doesn't have a lot of food. And so all of these different social safety nets patched together, but I think Freemasonry, from a historical perspective, provides one of the strongest and best parts of that patchwork of social safety nets, which is one of the reasons why I think it's so important that it continues to exist for many, many years to come. Chloe Martin says hello. Hello, Chloe. I hope you're doing well. I hope, Chloe, you'll hit the like and subscribe button if you've not done so yet. I don't know if you've been here before, but thank you for being here. Wiz Buzzmac, welcome back. Put on a suit, do up your tie, and sing the national anthem, God Save His Majesty, King Charles III. I mean, I'm a monarchist, so I agree with you. I like the king. I wish him a long life. I believe that the benefits offered bigger than Freemasons at one point. Was that the case? I'd have to double check that. I don't know if that. I thought that the Oddfellows never had more membership than the Freemasons, but I could be mistaken. I know they grew heavily in the 1920s. Um, Thank you, Eso. Yeah, I've been traveling, so I've been very busy. I've been having a wonderful travels. But now I'm back on my 1 p.m. Eastern live stream, and I'll be doing a 1 a.m. live stream as well once again. Aiden Martin, I hope you'll hit that like and subscribe button, please. Jump in, answer our poll question, and let me know how it's going. But I hope, ESO Cypher, I hope that you were following me on social media as well. So you could keep up with my travels, what I was up to, and what was going on. Interesting. Furthest you ever traveled for a Masonic event or function looks like 2 votes within my community city, 1 vote for state province, 1 vote for hemisphere, 2 votes crossed an ocean over a 5-hour flight. So that's pretty cool. Okay, very cool. Was the trip to Ethiopia for work, or was it personal? If you want to answer, and I hope maybe Cipher that one day you get to travel Masonically. Traveling as a Mason to a Masonic event can be incredibly, incredibly special and a lot of fun, and something I encourage everybody to do. But again, travel from a Masonic perspective doesn't mean um, it doesn't mean, you have to travel across an ocean. It can mean, maybe you're in a city that has 2 Masonic lodges. One lodge meets on Monday, one lodge meets on Tuesday. Maybe you go to your lodge on Monday and then you go to the other lodge on Tuesday, right? Traveling in a Masonic perspective can mean traveling. Um, it can mean traveling literally across a hallway from your normal Masonic lodge room to a different Masonic lodge room, right? And I think ESO, that is one of the best parts about the travel and this is true for Masonry as well as otherwise, it opens your eyes to things you would not see otherwise, which is an incredibly special feeling. Um, it really, really is. So, to see Masonry in a new light, to see the world in a new light is special. Um, so yeah. Well, so here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the chat my socials because I don't know if I have them all on Instagram. Facebook, it's at Square Compass Essex. On X, it's at Cameron ADAMSO16. And then let me also add Patreon, it's squareandcompass.ca. Oh, sorry. Patreon.com/squareandcompass. So I'm not sure which ones people do or don't follow me on, but I'll put them all down there. So Facebook.com/Square Compass Essex, on Twitter/X, at Cameron Adamso16, at CAMERONADAMSO16, and on Patreon, patreon.com/Square and Compass. I would love, one of the things I really want to learn more about, and I'm very saddened that I've not learned more about yet, is Freemasonry in Freemasonry in Africa. It is on my list, and I can't wait to learn more about it. Spirit of Justice, hola. I almost picked up no Portuguese in Brazil, in Rio. I wish I had. I learned obrigado, which means, I guess, thank you, and that's about the best I can do. Buenas noite, I think, was good morning or good night. Thank you, Spirit, for following them. I truly appreciate it. Um, Rio was incredible. Rio was absolutely wonderful. Super friendly brothers, super amazing time. It really was a blast. I loved it. Um, again, I was talking about this before. I'm going to give my little old man yelling at clouds rant. I had heard all sorts of like Rio's so dangerous, Brazil is so dangerous, the Philippines is so dangerous, Chicago is so dangerous, all the places I went. I did not find any of that to be the case at all. I never felt unsafe. Everybody was super friendly. Obviously, I tried to be intelligent about things and smart and not take stupid risks, but I did not feel at any point unsafe. Everybody was very friendly. Everybody was very kind. It was an absolute blast. So I'm on my journey of discovering more knowledge and occult understanding. I always land on religion and the laws of the land as they are written and codified. Interesting, Cipher. If you could maybe let me know a little bit more what you mean. Um, because the religion and the laws of the land are a little bit different from a Masonic perspective. When I see what you say there, I think of from a Masonic perspective, from law of the land. Certainly, we as Freemasons are instructed to be respectful of the laws of the land of any country to which we're traveling. So, I travel to Rio. I need to be respectful of the laws in Rio or in Brazil. I travel to Philippines, same thing, right? I need to be respectful of those. Whereas religion, again, from a Masonic perspective, it's this idea of a supreme being. And again, we are taught to be respectful of the religious beliefs of our brothers, of anybody we meet, but also to make sure we do not bring religious discussions into a lodge. So there's that as well. Oh, hold on just one sec. I'll be back in just one moment. I think. Oh, no, there she is. And by the way, everybody can give a happy birthday to my cat, Bandit, who I guess turned 11 years old in June. I celebrate her birthday on June 15th because I got her that day. We don't know when she was born exactly. I got her as a kitten. She was a stray. Um, so I was traveling, so I had to celebrate her birthday before I left. Gave her some extra wet food and some treats. So happy birthday, Bandit. So it can be cipher. I mean, it's interesting you just bring that up. Again, Jose Rizal from the Philippines is considered like the founding father of the modern Philippines, as well as he was a Freemason. And certainly you see it also with Garibaldi in Italy. Many kind of founding fathers of different countries around the world were themselves Freemasons. The extent to which their Masonic ideals influenced their decision making is, I mean, it's questionable depending again on who they are and it's never going to be a single thing. Like for me, I love Freemasonry. If I ever were to become a politician, certainly my Masonic ideals and the way I interpret Freemasonry would, to a certain extent, affect the way I would choose to govern. But that's also true about my personality, my other likes, my time professional wrestling, all this type of thing. I will take those kind of ideals and apply them, right? You can't not, because it's just so in the mix. But the other thing to keep in mind is the way people view Freemasonry is different, right? I'm sure Jose Rizal had different ideas about Freemasonry than I do. So his interpretations will be different, and therefore the way he applies Freemasonry to his governing decisions will be different as well. No, I don't think so. Martinism kick. I can't, not off the top of my head. Is like Martin Luther is what I think of when I see that. Messi fan, welcome back. Yes, yes, I've done some professional wrestling refereeing, and it's been a blast. Martinism. Let's see. Esoteric Christianity that focuses on the fall of human from the divine state and the subsequent journey of reintegration back to that original connection. So says Google. I think so too. I mean, my kick lately has been on um, um, enlightenment, which seems to be kind of the thing that, from a political, philosophical perspective, seems to be the thing that makes the most sense. I've said before in this stream that the two greatest enlightenment experiments to ever exist, number one is the United States of America, number two is Freemasonry. Um, it's right up our alley. I will check it out for sure. According to Wikipedia, Martinism, a form of Christian mysticism and esoteric Christianity, concerns the fall of the first man, his materialistic state of being, deprived of his own divine source, and the process of his eventual, if not inevitable, return called reintegration. Very interesting. So, like an Adam and Eve situation almost? Do you know any Freemasons who are themselves Martionists, Spirit? Because if so, I would love to maybe interview some of them for the podcast. I do have more live stream interviews coming up finally in the coming weeks. And so usually I try to post those Sundays at 6 p.m. And if I get the chance to this time, then if I'm able to get my interview done, then you'll see one of those coming up very soon. About Freemasonry in Brazil. I will check it out for sure. What would you say is the biggest Masonic connection between the two, between Freemasonry and Martinism? By the way, 9 votes. Furthest ever traveled within state, 3 votes. Crossed ocean, 3 votes. Within hemisphere, 1 vote. Within community, 2 votes. Christopher, what is going up? I've always considered Martinism a mystical expression of Freemasonry. I will check it out for sure. I 100% will check it out. Maybe do a podcast about it, or maybe even find a Martinist I can interview. It has been a long time, Christopher, but I'm doing well. I've just been traveling last a little bit over a week, so about 11 days. I mean, let me tell you, with a face like this, how could I not, right? With a face like this, how could I not? Ever spoken to anyone in the Church of Scientology? I have not. I mean, I'm debating whether I want to or not, because I tend to be like, so I'm a big believer in any sand, plenty of sand in the sandbox, plenty of room for everybody to get along. And if you want to be a Scientologist, more power to you, be a Scientologist. But it seems like sometimes the general public confuses Scientology with Freemasonry, and I'd have to do the interview, but be very careful to make it clear that they are different organizations at different groups and not the same thing. Because I find sometimes in the public there can be a conflation of the two. Um, Good seeing you too as well, Christopher, and thank you as always for being here. Please don't forget to hit that like button if you can. I mean, I don't know a ton about it. Again, beyond the general look, plenty of sand in the sandbox, and I certainly, if people are able to find a level of fulfillment and happiness through Scientology, and then all the better for it. I think I'm not going to judge anybody's kind of anybody's path on spiritualism or spirit or anything like that, just as long as people recognize and understand, it is not Freemasonry. But I need to learn more about it before I can say too much because again, it's not something I know a ton about. I remember I read Battlefield Earth, I think, like 20 something years ago. I thought the book was okay. I didn't think it was anything great, but if it works for you, I suppose would be my statement for whatever it's worth. What I understand, again, a Scientologist could be a Freemason in that a Scientologist believes in a supreme being, but I would need to learn more about their specific tenets precisely. And I've heard the stories about some people say it's a financial scam or that it collects money from people, which again, I don't know enough about it to say. But I will say it seems like a lot of churches and a lot of different religious organizations can use kind of spiritual language to take advantage of people. So I don't know if that'd be a unique thing to Scientology necessarily. So sorry I couldn't answer more. Eso, if you have any thoughts on Scientology, just understand. Well, I've heard L. Ron Hubbard was an interesting fellow. Let's put it that way. I've heard L. Ron Hubbard was an interesting character. Like I said, I read Battlefield Earth, and I thought it was, again, I thought it was all right, but I didn't necessarily. It would not make me want to join any type of spiritual religious group. But by the same token, there are plenty of people who read my favorite books and don't get anything out of them. So I think that's okay too. Not everybody is going to necessarily get the same thing out of every group and work and all the rest of it, and that's just nature, right? Some people join Freemasonry and love it. Some people join Freemasonry and aren't a huge fan. I'm sure in the same way some people join Scientology and love it. Some people join and are not a huge fan. I ask because my stance on the world in general, as we know it, politics, is that we're inside out, upside down, that real is fake and truth. Well, I mean, truth may be stranger than fiction, ESO, although I tend to be much more, shall we say, I tend to be much less skeptical of the world. I tend to think the world pretty much, I try to Occam's razor things. I tend to take that approach to it. When I look at the world, it seems like oftentimes, there's an order to it, there's a reasonableness to it. You see it in physics. I don't know. I think the world is much more knowable and much more recognizable and much more predictable than we necessarily give it credit for. People can be quite different. People can be quite challenging. I get that 100%, but the world itself seems to be pretty stable. I've never heard that, Rondo. And I don't think. Let me just check something quickly. So I don't believe he was a Freemason. I've never heard any evidence that he was. OTO is not. It's kind of not a Masonic. It's kind of a Masonic. What's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of a Masonic adjacent organization, if that makes any sense. But I've never heard that he maybe modeled Scientology. But I mean, again, Freemasonry was so ubiquitous throughout so much of the 19th century that when you're forming a new group, even if he himself was not a Freemason, people are going to join who are Freemasons, and they're going to bring their own ideas into it and their own Masonic influences into it. So a lot of times what people view as some kind of Masonic conspiracy, because they'll see Masonic connections in different organizations. It's not a, it's just what happens when you have such a high level of Freemasonry existing society that it can't help but, I don't even want to use the term infiltrate because that's not the right term. It can't help but influence other organizations because, every like, if, 4 million Freemasons in the United States of America and they're joining other groups, then they're going to bring those Masonic influences into those other groups. So, I have got 199 new emails to deal with. Because when I was traveling, I was not checking my emails. Now, most of these, in fairness, are junk, but still. Meow Mix says never. I'm not sure what you mean by never, Meow Mix, but yes, never. Never to Scientology? He was, Crowley was clandestine. Oh, it never, okay. Well, I do hope that Meow Mix, you do get the chance to travel, whether for Masonry or just to travel. I think traveling is one of the most important things we can do for Freemasonry, but also one of the most important things we can do for our own lives and just to travel. So, and to broaden our horizons, learn more about this world which we're part of, find more connections to quote unquote the other, figure out we're all human beings. Anthony Bourdain talked about travel, why it's so important, and I think he was absolutely right. And I've quoted him a few times in Medium, so. But Meow Mix, let me know how it's going. By the way, with your name, reminds me to say once again, happy birthday to my cat Bandit, who is, I guess she'd be 10 years old. I got her June 15th, 2015. So hard to believe it's been 10 years. Time absolutely flies. And education departments would do something similar in public. I mean, education departments, again, it's one of those things where I'm sure they did. Freemasonry and the trying to think what the right term is. Freemasonry and the magical occult, whatever you want to call it. There's always been Masons who have been super into that side of things and mysticism in general, and there's always also been Freemasons who have been very strongly opposed to it. I mean, the greatest example is the friendship then rivalry between Arthur Conan Doyle, who famously wrote Sherlock Holmes, and Harry Houdini, right, the famous magician. Harry Houdini was very much opposed to mysticism, spiritualism, spirits, all that stuff. He absolutely hated that side of things and believed that it was very harmful. Whereas Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was, a big believer in mysticism, being mystical, all that good jazz. And so there's always been this tension between Freemasons, some of whom tend to more the esoteric, mystical side of things, some of whom, like me, are much more, shall we say, skeptical of those things. I view it as maybe a really good opportunity for kind of something you can do. You can have like a mystical night at your Masonic lodge to bring in new people, to maybe as a fundraiser, but I'm very hesitant of it as a actual. So I think Freemasonry does better when it moves away from the esoteric side and more to the practical, making our community better side. Meow Mix, somebody say my name. Oh, we got the occultist slash psychonaut back. Hello, how's it going? Thank you for being here. Mystical 905. I've been called Houdini before. I don't know, because you disappear a lot? How's it going, everybody? Thank you so much for being here. If you're just joining, please don't forget to take a moment, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button. I hope you are doing well, and I hope everybody's having a great day and looking forward to what should be a great, great weekend. And oh, darn it. And will join me on Monday, the 23rd, for what's going to be an excellent fireworks display celebrating the bonds of friendship and brotherhood between the United States of America and Canada, which happens every year. It's always really special. It's always really fun. And I think this year, more than ever, it's important that we celebrate it with, for the same reasons. Because with the political situation, I think it's important to remember that our brothers are our friends. American Canada are friends, and whatever's happening in the world now, politically or otherwise, that's built on sand, whereas Masonic friendship and brotherhood is based on stone, or built on stone, and will last forever. At least hopefully that's the case. That's what we want. I don't know if I am a true magician, but I try my best. Skeptical of kind of mysticism, spiritualism, spirits, psychics, things of that nature. I tend to be fairly, as I was saying, I tend to be fairly skeptical that psychics, for example, exist. I think that's more often than not kind of cold reading is what they call it. Skeptical of ghosts, skeptical of, I mean, I enjoy those things from an entertainment perspective. I love ghost tours, I love scary movies. But I tend to fall much more on the Harry Houdini side of it, which it's magic is illusions and kind of trickery as opposed to actual psychic phenomena. And when it comes to even esotericism, I tend to have the same view. I tend to be somewhat skeptical of the kind of the esoteric side of it. I think far too many Masons focus on the esoteric side of Freemasonry and not nearly enough on the practical aspects of what it means to run and operate a lodge, run and operate a building. You can be as spiritual as you want to be, but I don't think that those things ultimately, I think you're going to be far more successful in your Masonic experience if you focus on the nuts and bolts of how to run a lodge and not on, what Aleister Crowley said in any of his works. If that makes any sense at all. I hope that did. Rondo, let me know if it did. Eso, great question. By the way, Masonic Courtney, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you joining once again. Thank you. For someone who isn't in a lodge but still studies the knowledge, how do they implement it into their life? So, I think I think it's a great question. I'm trying to think of how I want to answer it. Well, so there's two kind of ways to look at what you're saying there. So there's not a ton, Psychonaut. So there's two kind of ideas of Masonic knowledge. The first I would call it is Petals. Welcome, Petals. Thank you for being here. I hope you hit the like and subscribe button, please. The first of Masonic knowledge I would call general modes of living one's life, and that is not it's not specific to. I'm trying to think how to describe it. Okay, so let's imagine you really love football, but you never played it. You just watch it, whatever it is, but you learn all about it. There are still certain lessons from football that you can apply to your life, a knowledge that you can apply to your life. So, for example, the importance of teamwork, the importance of hard work, the importance of staying healthy, the importance of practice. Those are all lessons from the world of football or organized sports that you can apply to your life. And in the same way, I think Freemasonry also has many of those lessons that can be applied in your own life. So, for example, to be a Freemason, you need to have the ability to work with other people who have various views and opinions that might be different than your own. You need to be willing to practice. You need to be willing to set aside a time. You need to have a decent memory. All of those lessons you can apply to your day-to-day life. The injunction against religion or politics while in lodge, that is something certainly more people could apply to their own lives. When you're at work, you got a coworker, your coworker, let's say, loves Donald Trump, which I definitely do not, but let's say your coworker loves Donald Trump. You take that Masonic idea of, okay, this is a no religion, no politics space, and you work with that coworker to accomplish whatever it is you need to accomplish, right? So I think that is kind of general lessons that you can apply in your day-to-day life. Maybe try to create a sphere around you and imagine that, extending 10 feet in every direction from you is a Masonic lodge, and that is a no politics, no religion zone. And whomever you meet, you're not going to judge them based on those things, but you're going to judge them based rather upon your, kind of as a brother, right? If that makes any sense. And then I think the value of temperance is universal. The value of prudence is pretty universal. Sure. I mean, yeah, I think most things you can apply universally if you take the right lessons from it. So again, when we're talking about taking the right lessons from Freemasonry, again, imagine if from what you've said in Freemasonry, if you imagine that wherever you go, the lodge extends 10 feet in front of you in every different direction, what are some of the things that you can take from that and learn from that? Avoiding religious political conversations, finding ways to work with people who have various views, the importance of being charitable with your time, charitable with your efforts, charitable not just with your money, because maybe you don't have the money to be charitable with, but you have your time, you have your attention, you have your kindness, you can be charitable with forgiveness. All of those things are incredibly, incredibly important, and all of those things matter quite a bit. So I hope that makes sense. I would say for me in my day-to-day, what I try to apply most is temperance, which is not always easy. But thank you everybody for being here. I hope you're doing well. Please take a moment, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing, and let me know if there's anything else that you want to talk about. When you say abusers of the knowledge, so I'm not sure what you mean by that. Do you mean people who share the secrets of Freemasonry? Goodbye, Dad. Thank you for joining. It's been wonderful to have you as always. And Petals, please take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe button. I would truly appreciate it. The more people we have liking and subscribing, the better it is for the stream. When you say, is it honestly because who is he? Thank you, Petals. I truly appreciate it. I just say that to everybody I see because I forget sometimes who's joined and who's subscribed. Um, so I always try to just do it as a reminder, just to see who else can join. But thank you, Petals. I truly appreciate it. I mean, knowledge like that, like I think it's hard to apply Masonic knowledge in that way. Um, I wish you the best of luck, Masonic. You'll be do a great job, I've no doubt. Like there's I have knowledge about somebody who I don't know, I can blackmail them to get money from them. That would be using knowledge maliciously. But using using your knowledge of Freemasonry, I mean, I'm not sure how you could use it for malicious or selfish reasons, right? Like the value of temperance. It might help you create some gain in your life. It might help you create a better life, but I don't think I would equate that with being selfish necessarily. Well, so yeah, I am no fan of Trump. I speak exclusively for myself. Um, right, I don't speak for, again, Freemasons. I know many Freemasons who are actually big fans of Donald Trump. I don't get it myself, but to each their own. But I am not. I'm just gonna move this here. Give me 1 second. A fan. I think he is a cruel person. I think he encourages cruelty amongst many of his supporters. Um, I think he is not a serious person. I think, if I view America as a experiment of Enlightenment philosophy, as understood by Europeans and Americans like Voltaire, Ben Franklin, George Washington, carried over in men like Abraham Lincoln, and even to a certain extent FDR, then what I see in Donald Trump is someone who rejects those principles, who seems to believe, again, in cruelty and might makes right, in a lot of things that I just do not think are keeping with what I understand America to be. Um, and what I would hope, and what I truly believe America is. I've said it a million times. Canada is the greatest country in the world because we have the greatest neighbors in the world. I truly still believe that to be the case. And even those who support Donald Trump, right? You're still uh, my neighbors, and I still love you. But it's very hard for me to look at Donald Trump and even some of his supporters or some of his political supporters, like an Elon Musk, a Ted Cruz, any of these guys, and what I tend to see is cruelty and a lack of curiosity, a lack of kindness, a lack of dignity. So it's very hard for me to support him, but you take it day by day, and whatever happens, happens. Eso, what do you mean? So Enlightenment philosophy. So the Enlightenment was a philosophical movement which coincided with the formation of America as well as the French Revolution. It didn't necessarily coincide with the formation of Freemasonry, but it heavily, heavily influenced Freemasonry. And I would say Freemasonry, the Enlightenment grafted a lot of its DNA onto Freemasonry. Some of the great Enlightenment thinkers, again, were Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, Mozart, Diderot, Voltaire, Condorcet. The ultimate, um, I would say the ultimate at its core idea of the Enlightenment would be a belief in democracy, democratic ideals, and the idea of that you could understand the world in a philosophical way through the use of reason and the use of kind of almost a scientific method as opposed to relying on religious or kind of religion as a way to understand it. But look up Voltaire, Diderot, Condorcet, those type of thinkers, um, for whatever it's worth. Trump also a strong leader. I mean, I don't know, mystical. I don't see a lot of strength in him. Um, I see. I don't know. It's hard for me to look at Trump and see a leader. He seems. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan. Put it that way. He seems very easily led. At least very easily led by um the kind of his whims, um and kind of however he's feeling at the moment seems to be what leads him, as opposed to any type of rational, long-term strategic thinking or even a set of steadfast principles. Which is why I think Twitter or X is so dangerous in the hands of like a Trump, because it seems like whatever he's thinking at the moment, he just posts. But what he's thinking can change moment to moment. So you end up getting these things like saying, Tehran should evacuate immediately, and then not explaining what he means by that or why they should do that. I mean, I can say if somebody in Iran, for example, tweeted out everybody in Ottawa, which is the capital city of Canada, should evacuate immediately, I would be quite concerned and quite upset with that tweet. Um, so yeah. Enlightenment period in Europe just became my new favorite topic to research. I hope you will research it, Iso. Let me know what you think of it. Let me know if you have any thoughts on it. Um, Again, in my opinion, the two greatest Enlightenment experiments in the world, the first is United States of America, and the second is Freemasonry, right? Freemasonry didn't start with the Enlightenment, but the Enlightenment, I think, grafted a lot of its DNA and its principles onto Freemasonry. What is the furthest you ever traveled? Interesting, 11 votes. Within my community city, 27%. Within my state, 27%. Within my hemisphere, 18%. Crossed an ocean, 27%. Very, very cool. But thank you, everybody, for joining us so far. I truly, truly appreciate it. Please take a moment to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. On the Iran subject, Israel is targeting military sites where they are breaking international accords. I'm not sure, mystical, if that's 100% the case. I think they may have targeted some civilian sites. Thank you, ESO. I appreciate that. I mean, what I will say about the Middle East is, I consider myself very lucky to be a member of, if I could get the card out now, um, the Grand Lodge of the State of Israel, Holy Land Lodge number 50. I don't know if you guys can see it there. That's my dues card. So I'm a member of a Masonic lodge in Israel, and I posted this on my socials. What's happening right now, I am wishing nothing but, safety for, I mean, every Mason, but everybody in the Middle East, whether they are in Israel and Tel Aviv in particular and Lodge Holy Land, or whether they are in Iran. And a lot of people will say that Freemasonry doesn't exist in Iran, but actually, and I always try to, warn people when they say stuff like that, when it comes to the Middle East, look, there are many Freemasons who are aid workers, who are press, who could be politicians, could be food aid workers, could be part of an NGO, could have family there, could be visiting there, could have been born there, traveled to North America, became Freemasons, traveled back, which has happened in various countries. Could be Freemasons on military bases, American military bases in Qatar, for example. So some people say, Freemasonry is outlawed in certain Middle Eastern countries, that doesn't mean there aren't Freemasons that are there. And so to all of my brothers who may be in harm's way, I wish them nothing but safety on both sides. It's not even sides, just on any part of this conflict. I wish safety first and foremost for them, for their families, and for anybody who's in harm's way, because it's just a shame to see kind of where things feel like they're evolving towards or devolving towards. And that's one of the reasons why I love Freemasonry so much. I truly believe, and I know how this may sound, um, but I truly, truly believe that Freemasonry can help make the world and does help make the world a better place, and can and does help provide some type of coverage for, or not even coverage, can help to if we learn to look at each other as brothers first, maybe the world would be a much better place. That is true. The bad apples do often ruin the bunch, and hopefully Freemasonry can at least help maybe turn some of these bad apples into good apples, which is possible. But it's really hard. And don't get me wrong; it's an incredibly, incredibly challenging um, situation. And yeah, it just makes me feel very sad to see the way in which, again, things are devolving. And as someone who truly believes the power of Freemasonry to create a better world, it's why I think it's so important. The world needs Freemasonry now more than ever. I truly, truly believe that. Actually, I'm going to make that my new poll question. Agree or disagree? Needs Freemasonry now more than ever. It was incredible, Courtney. It was absolutely incredible. I mean, my experience both in Rio and um, the Philippines was incredible. Rio is a beautiful country. I felt safe the whole time. To everybody keeps saying Rio is dangerous. I did not find it dangerous at all. I did not feel scared at all. Um, I loved meeting my Masonic brothers there. I had an amazing dinner, absolutely amazing dinner while I was there. So that was really, really special as well. So it was an incredible visit. I posted a lot on social media, pictures from my travels, which was really special as well. So it was an absolute blast. I mean, I agree. I think the world is big enough. I also think I think it's probably possible we may be able to expand to outer space. I hope we can expand to outer space. I hope that we can um, you know, find resources on other planets, all that good stuff. I'm a big believer in that as well. But I think, we could find a way to care for each other more. I truly believe that. And there's enough in this world that we could do so. So I agree. And hopefully Freemasonry could even help with that, with finding ways to sustain resources for everybody. So needs Freemasonry, I would say, when I say needs Freemasonry, needs the principles upon which Freemasonry is founded. So temperance, prudence, democracy, brotherly love, a reduction in the importance of the differences amongst religious belief, and a raising or a suspension, or not suspension, but a affirmation of the brotherhood amongst all people, um, a reduction in the importance of political and religious differences, and an increase, again, in the necessity of seeing each other as brothers, optimism, as well as a social safety net that ensures that if someone is experiencing, some type of economic crisis, lost their job, has medical debt, whatever it is, is suffering a psychological issue, a mental health issue, that Freemasonry is there to protect them, and the world needs that as well. Oops, I said the word. I meant the world needs Freemasonry now more than ever because, again, in the world, there is a lot of economic uncertainty, a lot of psychological deaths of despair, people turning to drugs and alcohol to try to find meaning, to try to find support. Maybe they can find that support in Freemasonry instead. So I hope that makes sense, Rondo. Let me know if it did. Any book recommendations? Freemasonry for Dummies, ESO Cipher. Freemasonry for Dummies, 100%, by Chris Hodat. Um, it's a great book to start with. Okay, let me start on today's main subject, which is some things I learned on this set of travels. Um, Again, I've traveled extensively, though it's almost always been through and to North America. Never really been, unfortunately, until now, overseas. And I wish before now I had done more traveling overseas. Right, travel and visitation, or not even overseas, but overseas and just to the you know, southern hemisphere, southern side of the world, traveling to South America. Travel and visitation is an incredibly important part of. Yeah, I know the title of it for dummies, but hey, I read it and people would say I'm a dummy, so there's that. Right? Travel and visitation is an incredibly important part of the Masonic experience. It is also a very important part of life. As Anthony Bourdain stated, if I'm an advocate for anything, it's to move. As far as you can, as much as you can. Across the ocean or simply across the river, the extent to which you can walk in someone else's shoes or at least eat their food or sit in someone else's lodges is a plus for everybody. It's a plus for the person traveling. It's a plus for the person doing the traveling. Um, I 100% agree with that. Um, the first thing though, I would say, one thing, and I've talked about this before, one thing that we are, or these are things I kind of learned, lessons I took. We as Freemasons, one thing we're called upon to do is to be respectful of the laws of the country to which we are traveling or to which offers us its protection, um, which I agree with. But that should also extend to your travel. That should also extend to even before you get to the country, but to your travel there. When you're traveling to a new country, especially one that's overseas, but really anywhere, right? You're almost asking to visit their house or somebody's house, and you want to do so in a respectful way. So that means what are your visa requirements? What are the passport requirements? What are the vaccination requirements? What are um, the rules surrounding, a foreign national in the country? Is there a time limit? There are some people, there are some places where you can travel there for like a month before you need a visa. There are other places where it can be 6 months before you need a visa. If you're planning for a long Masonic trip to visit a lot of brothers, you need to know how long your visa can and will last. And again, I will say when it comes to this, if you're looking for any specific travel legal advice, always check with a lawyer or legal counsel. Perspective versus perception. Well, so I do think, yeah, and that's an Enlightenment philosophy, ESO. You know, there is this kind of sometimes there can be this idea that you know it's impossible to truly understand the world. That what we perceive is basically just an illusion, and we're kind of trapped within our senses, which is true to a certain extent. But there's this idea that you can kind of understand. It's not just about perceiving or perception, that what you perceive you can actually understand in some way. Certainly with physics and science, there's this understanding you can make predictions and test those predictions, whether they're true or not. But then the idea of applying that also to human behavior, modes of governance, government systems altogether, democratic ideals, economics, these more social sciences, you can still have perceptions of them and kind of study them and come to some type of conclusions about them, right? So when people say things like, the world is an illusion or it doesn't make any sense, I tend to be pretty skeptical of that. I think it is possible to understand the world in which we live, or at least some things about it. And for me, Freemasonry helps me with that understanding of the world and how it is and how it works. Um, and I hope that it helps other people as well. So what was I talking about? Oh yeah, so that's the first thing I learned. As a Canadian who travels oftentimes to the States or oftentimes to other provinces, I'm used to the idea of needing a passport to cross. I'm used to the idea of needing to declare certain things to cross, how much money, things like that. But when I was traveling to these other countries, again, for the first time with the stopovers, I wasn't used to the necessity of getting, a visa. Let's say you need a visa for Brazil, for example, from Canada. You need, I wasn't used to um, the rules around how long you can or can't stay, what you can or can't bring into the country. Certain countries you can't bring any food in. And so that was the one thing right away that struck me and reminded me, like, I need to be respectful of these rules. Not only because if I'm not respectful of these rules, I can't travel to the country, but also it's a show of respect to the country I'm traveling to be respectful right from the start as soon as I arrive at their customs to have what I need to be able to cross. It's also respectful to the poor people working at customs and customs agents to be able to know that I've taken the time to get ready and not, hold up the line or hold up their job at all. Couscous, hey man, hello Couscous. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. I'm also going to add, and this is kind of a mea culpa a little bit, but it's also so important to check, first of all, if there are any vaccination requirements to enter a country. But if there's not, even still, are there certain vaccinations that are being recommended to you to take? And if so, can you get those somewhere? I am a firm believer in vaccinations. I've argued that getting vaccinated is a Masonic thing to do, and I believe it is, by the way. I believe getting vaccinated is a Masonic responsibility. Not everybody agrees with me. That's perfectly fine. That's just my view on it. Um, and so traveling to Rio, traveling to these countries, are there vaccinations that you should get that you haven't, that you're not up to date with? Maybe you got your vaccinations as a child, but can you get them updated? Do you have a vaccination list? Again, that's a matter of respect both for yourself to not take the risk of potentially catching a disease, and also respect for the country you're going to not spread diseases. And, mea culpa, I didn't do that this time, this trip, but I will be doing that in all future trips because it's just not something I thought of. Because, again, traveling so often to the States, with the one exception during COVID when you needed to show your vaccination status before you could travel to the States for about a year and a half and get yourself tested. After that, it's not been necessary since. And it wasn't necessary on this trip, but it still was something I feel like I should have done and could have done and will be doing in future. So that covers crossing. And then, as always, when you're crossing, you need to make sure you're paying attention to your Masonic documentation as well. So I already talked about, okay, you're traveling to a new country. What are the requirements to get into that country? What do you need to have? But then you're traveling to a Masonic lodge within that country. What do you need to have there? Well, you need to have your Masonic dues cards with you to show that you are a current member in good standing. You need to be able to learn how to set up a lodge. That's going to be pretty vital. Or answer the necessary questions. And perhaps a letter from your secretary confirming you're in good standing as well. You can keep these both on physical copy as well as on, electronic copy. In case you lose one or the other, you have a backup. You also should contact the lodge you're going to in advance to say, I'm going to be traveling on this date. I'm a member of this lodge. Here's my confirmation. Confirm that they're regular, or you have jurisdiction with them, or you can visit them. Doing all that stuff, again, if Freemasons are to be respectful of the laws of the country to which they visit, then a big part of that means also being respectful of the being respectful of the Masonic rules and order, having your dues cards with you, having them in good condition, having them legible and intelligible, all that stuff matters as well. I think that's incredibly important. Also, when you're traveling, and knowing how to set up a lodge, because you may be in a situation where you're visiting a lodge that does not speak English. If that's the case, how are you going to prove that you're a Mason? Especially if they, let's say, can't read your dues cards, well, setting up a lodge is a pretty good way to do so. And they should, if nothing else, be able to read the date on your dues cards. At least you would hope so. What else would I add to that? Other things I learned, and this is something a lot of people probably already know this, but again, it's something I completely forgot because I spend so much time traveling in North America. Different countries have different power requirements. So don't forget to buy an adapter in advance so you can charge your phone, all that good stuff. It's pretty critical. As someone who, especially if you're traveling for Freemasonry, and you have your phone with you, want to take pictures of the lodges you visit, the people you hang out with. If you're staying in a place and they don't have USB sticks, this happened to me in Rio, and they don't have, USB ports, you don't have an adapter, your phone is not going to last long. So pay attention to that stuff. Buy them. Usually you can buy them at the airports, or buy one before you go. You can usually find one at a mall or something. Check where you're going. Check what the power requirements are. Check where you're going, if you can drink the water or not. If you can't, make sure to invest in lots of bottled water at your location. If you're taking long flights like I was, make sure to invest in lots of bottled water at your hotel as well as on the airplane. You can buy some when you cross over. I was taking a 14-hour flight, was the longest flight I took. As they point out, you are going to deal with dehydration taking a flight for that long. So drink lots and lots of bottled water. Keep yourself nice and hydrated. Is something else I learned somewhat the hard way, because I did run into a bout of food poisoning at one point in the Philippines. At least I think it was. And having lots of water drink was very important to get me through that. So invest in that. Invest in, and this is especially for me, as someone who's in a wheelchair, I wheel around everywhere, which means my hands are always kind of touching my wheels, which touch the ground. Invest in hand sanitizer as well. It's cheap, they're easy to carry around with you. And again, it's just a matter of having something with you to keep yourself healthy and safe. So those are a couple more little things that I learned. Then, again, going back to the Masonic side of it, keeping a Masonic journal is really, really important, I think, on these trips. Because if you're, it's like airplane, lodge, airplane, lodge, airplane, lodge. If you're doing that enough, it all starts to blend together. So having a Masonic journal listing the lodges that you visited, where you visited them, when you visited them, and anything about those trips or those visits that you found memorable. I mean, you could even have a space to like insert tokens or coins or things that you found really cool that you were given as a gift. Thanks Edison, indeed, says Rondo. That's like a scrapbook almost. Like that is not necessarily going to, pay dividends during the trip, but it will pay huge dividends down the line when you can open up that scrapbook and look back and remember, oh yeah, on June the 13th, I visited, Manila, Philippines, and attended the Jose Rizal Masonic Memorial celebration. And here's a really cool picture that I, printed out and pasted into the scrapbook. It's going to 100% pay some pretty amazing dividends down the line. Because don't rely on yourself to remember. And also you can use a scrapbook to create your itinerary in advance. So you're going to this place, when the meetings are. Create your itinerary of this is the meeting date, this is where I'm located, this is how to get there. Can you take public transit, save a couple bucks? What type of transit do you need to take? I mean, all of that stuff is going to coming, and it came in huge for me as someone who I wanted to try to save a little bit of money on this trip, so because it was expensive enough. So taking the time to write out in advance my itinerary of, okay, where is the Masonic Lodge I'm visiting? Where is my Airbnb? And what are the different ways I can get there? What's the safest way, but also the cheapest way? That stuff helps out big time. And it's something I'd recommend everybody do. Speaking of, I mentioned, picking up Masonic coins, token pins along the way. If you have any Masonic pins or coins, or your lodge does, your lodge creates some, bring some with you, bring extra with you. You will run out. I ran out. I thought I had plenty. I did not. So now I have to mail a whole bunch of coins to people that I met, which I'm happy to do so. I feel lucky I get to do so. But still, I wish I had brought more with me at the time. Because you'll meet grandmasters, you'll meet masters, you'll meet secretaries, you'll meet brothers who collect. Bring extra pins, coins, and if maybe your lodge doesn't have any of that stuff, is it worth taking the time to visit, to talk to your lodge, I should say, and tell them I'm traveling. I'd like to create something that I can, tokens, coins, pins, that the lodge can bring with it, and maybe the lodge gives them away for free, or maybe the lodge, you know, gives some away for free and some you have to purchase. However it works, though, believe me, it's worth it, and it really helps cement those bonds that you would not have otherwise. The other things I would say, again, depending on where you're traveling, Freemasonry may be illegal or outlawed. That doesn't mean there won't be Freemasons there. That just means, again, they may not be allowed to meet. So you want to be really careful. If you're traveling to certain places in the Middle East, especially, you want to be really careful that you're not necessarily, advertising that you're a Freemason. I brought my dues cards with me. I have my Masonic tattoos. It was never an issue anywhere I went when I was in, let's say, Dubai. Even though I understand Freemasonry is not allowed there, is what I understand, except on military bases. That doesn't mean you won't meet Freemasons. Again, they could be traveling, they could have joined Freemasonry outside the country, whatever it might be. But you want to be really careful that, certainly that you're not, announcing other people are Freemasons. Because you're leaving the country, they may have to stay there, and now people are looking at them funny. That might be true if Freemasonry is outlawed, or if Freemasonry is just, it's illegal but kind of frowned upon in the country. Like, for example, I understand is the case in Jordan, where Freemasonry is legal but people frown upon it, kind of thing. And so, yeah, that is something to keep in mind. Beyond that, I'm going to say this, it probably sounds kind of silly, but it's true. Always take the time to, thank your hosts, thank the airlines, thank the customs people, thank everybody. You're in their country, you're also a Mason if you're traveling, and how you act towards all the people who are helping to make your travel possible reflects upon Freemasonry, reflects upon the craft. I understand, all-night flights, taking 2 or 3 of those in a row, you're sleep deprived, you're tired. Still remember, you represent the craft, you represent Freemasonry, so try to always be polite and respectful. Both in terms of having your stuff prepared, so you're not holding anybody up at security, anybody up in customs, you're not holding any flights up, but also the way you act and the respect you show to them. Because I can say, having crossed, 3 or 4 borders, having met dozens, if not over 100, different staff and crew and flights and whatever it is, people helping to make these trips possible. Yeah, I'm so grateful to all of them for their kindness, for their respect, for their help, for their assistance. All the airlines, all the crew. Yes, there were delays and there were pains in the butt, but that's always going to be the case, right? That doesn't change the fact that you should be grateful that you have these opportunities. And grateful for the people who help make those opportunities possible. For whatever it's worth. collect email addresses. Again, another real value of your Masonic journal is you can collect the email addresses, the contact information of the brothers you meet, the social media of the brothers you meet. You can keep in touch with them as you travel more or as the years go by. Encourage them to visit your lodge and go back and visit their lodge. So keep all of that stuff in mind. It's incredibly helpful. But thank you everybody I hope that helped give you at least some ideas, at least things I picked up. The biggest things I learned from a travel perspective that I hadn't been thinking about before: different power usage sources, different types of outlets. You need to have those, know what they are. So if you're traveling and you want to document your Masonic journey, you have the phone. Um, Keeping a Masonic journal so you can list where you visited, because you're going to forget. You might not forget in your heart, but you're going to forget in your mind at some point if you visit enough of them. Um, Bring extra pins, bring extra coins, bring extra tokens to give out as gifts. Gift giving culture is also very prominent in many of these countries. Um, Create an itinerary so you know where you're going, how you're getting there. Don't listen to the BS about things aren't safe. Things are safe, just be smart. Keep copies of your Masonic documents, keep extra copies electronically, so if you lose them or heaven forbid they get stolen, you've got your extra copies. And always remember that when you are traveling, you are representing Freemasonry, you are representing your Grand Lodge jurisdictions, and try your best to live that out by being kind and respectful. And I hope that that made sense. Thank you, everybody, for listening to me yammer on. If it did make sense, please let me know. If you have any thoughts on what I said, let me know. And if you disagree, let me know as well. And hit that like and subscribe button. We're one like away from 10 likes. And I'll be writing all of these thoughts down on a Medium article and releasing that Medium article very soon. So keep that in mind as well. But I hope that that made sense. Rondo, Couscous, anybody watching it, let me know if it did make sense or if it didn't. And let me know if you guys have any thoughts yourselves. And I'm going to give this another, let's say, 10 minutes, go 2 hours. Then we'll be ending the stream today. I will be back on at 1 a.m. So by all means, I hope that you guys will join me for that stream as well. But let me know how it's going and if there's anything that you guys want to chat about. And interesting, we have 5 votes. The world needs Freemasonry now more than ever. Agree, disagree. 80% yes, 20% no. Looks like 4 yes, 1 no. The person who disagreed, who said no, let me know why. I try to be sensible, I don't want to be too sensible, that's not fun, but being sensible sometimes can be enjoyable. You want to mix your sensibilities in with a little bit of dissensibility every now and then. Yeah, but yeah, and I get the other thing I forgot again is, again, it wasn't necessary on this trip, but I do feel like I messed up and should have done a better job at making sure I got any recommended vaccinations before my travels. Because as somebody who firmly believes in vaccinations, um, that is something I should have done. So that's my lesson for next time. That's for sure. And I think I talked about all the things I got, but if you didn't see on social media, one of the coolest things I got, this was from the very, very first part of my trip, the earliest part of my trip in Chicago. I got this awesome coin from Morton Grove Lodge celebrating their 90th anniversary, 99th, excuse me, 99th installation. And we got this guy. Check this out. Come on. It's going to do it in a second, I promise. There we go. Boom. Morton Grove. It's a Frisbee. So thank you, Morton Grove, for something really, really cool and really special. And you did a great job. But again, I thought I brought enough pins and enough coins. I did not. I ran out basically 2 days into my trip. So now, and I'm not complaining. Well, I guess I am a little bit, but I don't want to complain. Now I got to send by postage, which is not cheap. And I think there's even a postage strike right now, a whole bunch of coins to people that I promised I would. So, you know how it goes. Thank you, Courtney. I hope that maybe this advice can help you a little bit on your Masonic trip as well, or Masonic journey. When I say journey, I don't just mean Masonic travel, I just mean Masonic journey in general. So, all right, let's give it another 10 minutes. Let's just see who else joins. And then we may call this stream off. We'll do another stream another stream at 1 a.m. And we'll be back to the normal and regular schedule very shortly. Okay, let's give it another, like I said, 5 minutes. We're just going to see if anyone else joins, but then we will be calling this stream off. I'll do another stream at 1 a.m. And everything I said, I will be writing in Medium as well. So make sure that you follow me there. By the way, I'll give it a shout one more time. Follow me on all my socials. Follow me on Instagram. Courtney, thank you for all your likes and stuff on the different accounts. Patreon, all that. It helps out majorly, majorly, majorly. and I would truly, truly appreciate it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, answer the poll question. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these polls, and you're going to be seeing the next few days a lot more stuff on social medias. So, but thank you all so much for joining. I truly appreciate it. It's nice to travel. It's also nice to come back home where I get the chance to, come back to my normal live streams again. By the way, my real song is Lost Together by Blue Rodeo, if anybody's curious. It's funny, whenever I travel, I always think of I tend to, because I love music so much, I tend to um, combine or think of places with music I listen to at the time. And for me, for Rio de Janeiro, it's always going to be Lost Together by Blue Rodeo. So temperance, right? So temperance is the Masonic principle that um, I think I mostly try to meditate on because it's the virtue that I most struggle with. The idea of taking things not, the idea of taking things cautiously, not jumping to conclusions, not getting too happy when things are going well, and by the same token, not getting too upset when things are going poorly, but rather taking everything in stride, is something that I do sometimes struggle with, and I try to be better with that. And so, temperance is important. Tarot, I don't know a lot about tarot, but I've had some good Masonic friends and brothers who are very into tarot reading. Most of which brother Cameron Bailey out of Seattle, for example, Washington State. So I'm not aware of the Temperance card in the tarot deck, but I do know there are many Masonic symbols that make their way into the tarot deck. I've seen a lot of tarot cards that have that um, um, Masonic symbolism. The dude does abide indeed. I wish I was more like the dude. The dude seems to have figured out the key to life. Um, I once heard a quote. I really liked it. It was about it was someone who studied ants and bugs, and she said, I think it was a she. The scientist researcher said ants have discovered the answer to the question of the meaning of life, and that is to not ask the question, which I think is a very dude-ish approach to life and probably the best approach to life, to be perfectly honest. Good for you, Courtney. Keep up the good work. Proficiency is very important. JP 1850. JP, welcome. Thank you for being here. If you've not done so, please, JP, take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button. I would truly appreciate it. Um, and welcome. I'm not sure if you've been on the stream before. I can't recall if you have or not. Um, if you haven't, then it's great to have you for the first time. If you are back, then welcome back. I truly appreciate it. It might be, I'm sure it would be an interesting article. I will look it up for sure, Rondo. I don't know when, but I will 100% do so. Thank you for the advice. I appreciate it. Ryan says hello. Hello, Ryan. How's it going? Are you doing well? Jump in the chat. Say hello. I'd love to talk to you for a couple minutes. I will for sure. Like I said, Cameron Bailey. Great name, by the way, Cameron. I will for sure. How's it going, Ryan? How's things? Have you been to Coffee Club lately? How are they doing? I'd love to know. And I would do that for sure, Rondo. Let's give this another, let's say, 5 minutes. Then we will call the stream, but I'll be back on at 1 a.m. So if you're going to be up that late, Ryan, Courtney, Rondo, then I'm see 1 a.m. Eastern time. Because again, so much of my audience seems to be night owls. Basically, it's going to be this stream again. I'll give my advice for traveling, and all that good jazz one more time. So, speaking of, Cameron Bailey just liked something I did on Facebook. That's kind of cool. It was really fun. It was a great time. Yeah, I missed you at the fish fry, but I don't know. It seemed to go well. I think your dad enjoyed it. And so yeah, it was. I don't know what anybody was saying about it. I'm sure people were complaining. People always complain, but I thought it went well. So yeah, it was good. People seemed to really like the fish. Thought it was really good. Good. Well, I'm very happy. I'm never going to organize it again. So that's for sure. I did my fish fry. I did 2 years in a row. I'm good. And that was kind of, it's funny because when I think about my trip, that was the start of it, right? It was, I traveled to Essex, Ontario, then I traveled to Chicago, then I traveled to the Philippines through South Korea, then I traveled to Rio de Janeiro through Brazil, or sorry, then I traveled to Rio de Janeiro through Dubai, then I traveled back to Windsor through Detroit, through Texas, and through Toronto. So it was a fun travel altogether. Nelson says hello. Hello, Nelson. I hope you're doing well. I hope you'll take a moment, hit the like and subscribe button, Nelson, if you're new to the stream. If you're not new to the stream, thank you so much for being here. And next Masonic trip, I suppose, is back. Well, I don't know if it's not trip. Next trip is Winnipeg to see my family, so see my pops. It's coming up soon. Nelson, welcome, Nelson. I was in the Philippines. I was in Manila. So that'd be Asia, right? Or would it be yeah, it'd be Asia. I've heard sometimes that area of the world, kind of around Australia, referred to as like Oceania. Um, but I was just there. That was my first time in Asia, and it was incredible. So Manila was wonderful. Manila was absolutely wonderful. People were very friendly. People were very kind. Crowded city. Like I'm not used to that many people. I live in a city of 200,000. I find Toronto to be big. Manila was huge. Just a number of people everywhere, but it was still really, really cool. Really cool place. Really cool people. Um, I loved it. Oh yeah, another thing I'll recommend. This is my last bit of Masonic travel advice, not just Masonic travel advice, but travel advice in general. If you're going for a longer trip and there's going to be lots of travel, like taking lots of different flights, sometimes the tendency is to pack a lot of stuff, so you have everything like clothes wise, right? I would say it makes more sense to pack light. It's cheaper. You don't have to pay for baggage fees or pay for carry-on. It's cheaper to travel or pack light and rely on local laundromats. Most of these places, I found Mexico, the Philippines, um, Even Rio, they have laundry services that kind of cater to tourists where you can drop your stuff off. They'll wash it for you, they'll dry it for you, and then they'll even pack it in like these. They'll fold it and they'll pack it in like plastic wrap. It's super tight. It makes it super easy to travel. It's ultimately the money you spend on the laundry services is so much cheaper than the cost of extra bags at the airport and the convenience of not having to schlep around two or three suitcases. Just like I was gone for a week and a half, and this is what I took with me: one backpack. Um, that way I knew it would be a personal item, would fit without issue in the airport. Um, wouldn't have to pay for it because it's my personal item, and I knew that it would just save me a couple bucks. And I just relied on laundry services. Nelson, I've never been to Taiwan, obviously, but I'd love to go. Is there a lot of Freemasonry in Taiwan? What's the best thing to check out in Taiwan, would you say? Okay, well, this has been a lot of fun, guys, but I do have to, I think, call this a stream. I have a bunch of work to do I got to get to tonight at some point, so I'm going to call this stream off. Thank you, everybody, for joining. If you haven't done so yet, please hit the like, subscribe button, and I'll see y'all soon.